Hello my friends, welcome to Together Run 51. Thank you for joining me today. We're going to connect as we always do, start our run by beginning with some element of nature. So if you want to touch something, I'm going to touch some really, really long grass in our yard or garden. Bye! My kids are just leaving to go to the library. This long piece of grass we are well overdue with mowing, but helps the bees the longer you hold off your mowing in the beginning of the spring, so we haven't mowed yet. And as much as my neighbours probably don't like it, I'm helping bees, so that's one thing you can do, is minimise your mowing in the early months of spring. Alright, so we're ready to begin? In 3, 2 and 1. Well, friends, this is a little different to the last Together Run, put it mildly, although I suppose it's warm here today, so temperature-wise, not too different. But it's just been raining here. Didn't see a single... Well, actually, I did get a little bit of rain in Maui. Lots of bird sound, just different noises, and definitely drastic difference in scenery. But I hope you enjoyed that Maui Together Run. I really felt that was a special one, and I got myself into a really introspective place. I think you could probably tell, because I got myself in this place where I was just like not analysing, but just reflecting on things in a different way to what I've ever done before, and you got to hear a little glimpse of that as I worked my way through it. And so I hope you enjoyed that one. I know at times the cars were kind of loud and waves were loud, but I hope you still enjoyed it. Those of you who have reached out said you did, so I'd love to hear from you. So if you're enjoying them, let me know. Next week, I am going to try and get a New York Together Run. Squeaky wheel truck. A New York Together Run, as I am doing a last minute trip there for something I cannot say yet. But if you live in New York and you hear this before Wednesday or Thursday, let me know, and I would love to have you join. Okay, so let's begin with our usual things that we always begin with for our runs. And that is, we're going to begin with our body scan. So what this is for someone, this is your first Together Run. What you're going to do is you are going to work your way down from your head to your toes. You're going to... Sorry, a car just kind of came at me really fast. made me jump a little bit. Yeah, you're going to start at the top of your head, scanning down. I'm going to kind of call out some areas for you, but it's up to you to, notice other areas that come out to you. But we're just basically checking in with our body to see how it's doing. Okay, so you ready to begin? Okay, starting at the top of your head, working your way down, around the top of your scalp, very top. Just imagining you're being lifted up. We want to make sure that we aren't slouching and hunched over, but we are lifted up as if someone was pulling a piece of string, like a puppet. Well, do puppets have... It's more on their arms, isn't it? But anyway, you know what I mean. Starting there, working your way down into your eyes, trying to keep those eyes nice and relaxed, not squinting, not scrunched. Going round to the back of the head, checking in over there, coming back to the front, feeling your jaw, your mouth, your chin. Everything should be nice and relaxed. And then continuing down to the front of the neck, round to the back of the neck, into the back of the shoulders, going round to the front, to your clavicle, and let's go into the arms, going down the top of the arm, over the elbow, working your way down into the forearm, the wrist, and then finally the fingers. And then coming back to the middle core of the body, working your way down through the chest, into the stomach, around to the lower back, going into your glutes, hips, pelvis, working your way down that socket into the main part of your quads, and turning over or coming behind to your hamstrings, going down into the back of the knee, around to the front of the knee, going into the calf and shins, into your inside ankle and outside ankle, arch of your foot, the top of your foot, and last but not least, our toes. Just give them a little wiggle, scrunch up in your shoe and let them relax. How's your body feeling? Just going to give you a moment to reflect on that. Okay. So I think we'll do a mental check-in first, then we'll go on to our senses check-in. So the mental check-in is what it sounds like. I'm going to ask you how you are. If this is your first time listening, you can just pretend for a minute that we do know each other. And if we were running together right now and I said, how are you, really, what would you say? We'll just take a minute or so to imagine either what you would tell me, or even if you wouldn't tell me what you are feeling, even if it's just keeping it to yourself. So, off you go. Few more seconds. Okay, thank you for sharing with me, or at least taking the time to reflect with yourself as to how you are doing. We often don't do that on our runs when we get into the rhythm of things and just kind of get on with them. So thank you for doing that. As for me, how am I? Finding it hard, to be honest. It's been a tough end of the week since I got back on Tuesday. I really am struggling this time to readjust. I can't really describe it. I just keep craving to go back. So, Boston was amazing. I had such a good weekend, but that very much felt like a typical trip that I would go on. Whereas the second half in Maui, I don't know, it was just some kind of magical, sacred, spiritual connection I had that I'm finding really hard to let go of. So I feel like I'm a bit down this week, and I have guilt over feeling that way, because I mentioned the other day on social media, you know, I was finding it hard to get excited about coming home, even though I hadn't seen my family in 10 days, and lots of people kept saying, oh, you can't wait to get home. And I was really, to be honest, that wasn't how I felt. And it's not that I don't love Steve or love the girls. Of course I wanted to see them. I just felt so at peace there, in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. So, 10 to 15 years since I felt that way. And yeah, so just coming back to all the little things that not only life involves, but just, you know, little extra things that happen, like even just, I know this is a wonderful thing, but I got an email this morning saying, hey, it's Teacher Appreciation Week next week, bring your teacher flowers. And so things like that, to me, like being made to join in with something, like, can I not celebrate the teacher and Bailey's teacher in the way that feels right to me? And I think I'm going to make my own spin on it. I don't know if that's asking for a bouquet from a store, but we're not going to do that. Like, we're going to take her some flowers from our garden, take them some, and maybe that's what it's asking for. I'm just misinterpreting it, but things like that, it just feels like there's so many extra, and part of it is I was on vacation, essentially. I didn't have plans. Life is always going to come, you know, it doesn't matter where you are, you need to pay for things, do things, errands, fine. But I'm just, I don't know, just struggling a bit, to be honest. And I mentioned about New York, you know, this is an incredible opportunity for me, but there's also guilt of like, you're going on another flight. And I believe in the work that I'm doing, and I believe this is a reason worth taking flights for, but still, that's there. So just, I'm trying to be gentle with myself. I'm trying to journal as much as I can, but I'm just longing for that time back. So yeah, and I'll give you a bit more about it in the updates section. But for now, let's transition on to our senses check-in. So if you haven't done this before, we're going to go through our 5 main senses, checking in with each of them, what we experience, and just seeing how we feel. So first, I'm going to take a nice deep breath. And what do you smell? For me, I smell one of my least favourite smells, which is wet grass. Like wet cut grass. I really didn't care for that smell. What do you taste? Next, we'll move on to hearing or audio. It's just, if it's safe to do so, remove your headphones and just listen. Give yourself a minute just to take in what you hear. Pay attention to noises that you might otherwise block out. What do you hear? few more seconds. Okay, for me, I hear the birds, which reminds me last night that it was one of those perfect evenings where you can have the windows open and just hear the birds. I looked at the clock at 3:55, they're already going, but it was peaceful and calming. And I can hear my footsteps, my breathing a little, I can hear a dog bark, and I can unfortunately hear the noise of a tree. I was, earlier on when I was doing the body scan, you may have had me pause, and that was because I was watching them get ready to cut the base of a big tree, and I didn't want to interrupt our flow, but I've made it pretty clear that I struggle with that when trees are healthy, and so I can hear it now, and it's difficult to hear. What about you? Anything that jumped out that's different to what you normally hear? Unfortunately, that's not it you can hear right now, but unfortunately for me, the tree cutting noise is a noise I hear far too often. I understand some trees need pruning, or whatever the word is for cutting branches off, but yeah. Okay, next we'll go into our sense of touch, tactile. Just want you to be in your body, paying attention to what sensations you feel, and we'll check in about a minute. Few more seconds. Just be in your body. What do you feel? Okay. For me, I feel my big toe for some reason. It feels a little bit achy on my left foot. I feel the phone just digging in a little to my hand. I feel just a little bit on the warm side, my core, and I feel my lips are dry. What about you? What are some things you felt? Okay, and finally, a sense of vision. What is it you see? Let's take a minute or so to look around. Again, as always, looking for details. Something small you wouldn't typically notice if you were just going about your day. You need to just grab some details and see what you see. few more seconds. Okay, what did you see? For me, I know this is like a giant red light that I need to find a way to either make peace with my situation or move somewhere else. What I saw was 2 leveled lots that really caught my attention, having not run here in 2 weeks, maybe more, along this Together Run path. 2 houses have been knocked down, land's been leveled since along this route, and that caught my attention. I also saw some pretty flowers, some tulips, some nice pink tree blossoms. I saw lots of green, which makes me feel comforted and loved. And yeah, those are some of the major things I saw. Okay, so that is our senses check-in, our mental check-in, and our body scan. Now today, doing a 30-minute and a 50-minute run, so you can obviously decide where you fit in that, or pick a middle ground and just stop randomly if you like. But for now, we are going to move on to the updates. So I want you to share with me, if this was your first time running with me, what would you tell me about yourself if we'd never met before? If this is your more than first, then I want to ask you, what updates do you have from the week? You know, since I shared last week in Maui and we did this, what's changed for you? What have you been up to? I'm just going to give you a minute or so to do that now. So a little bit longer. You know I'm going to go rambling on, so okay. Now before I start, because I'm probably going to get carried away, I want to just take a moment to explain. In 6 minutes, 30-minute group, we'll all be doing some strides. So 30-minute group, you'll come to a walk at 30 minutes and give you a minute or so to recover. And then we're going to do 2 strides. So what that's going to be, 10 to 15 seconds, just not trying to stride out, take big steps, but you're trying to run about 80% of your max. And you are just picking up your legs, shaking the rest off. This is really, really good for sneaking speed into your legs, especially if you do it a few times a week. And you don't need much. As I said, 30-minute group is going to do 2. 50-minute group with me is going to do 4. 2 at 30 minutes. and 2 at 50 minutes. But it's just going to be that 10 to 15 seconds of just, running a little harder, but also waking up your legs. So when I say to do strides, that's what I'm going to have you do. Okay. Right, so my updates. Well, last time I recorded this was Friday. Race was on Sunday. On Saturday, what did I record on Thursday? Anyway, so I know I'd watched that sunrise and sunset and Haleakala. That was it. That was the day I did it. That next morning. So over the next few days, I took it very easy on the Saturday before the race. Nice and rested. Sat and connected with with a guy who works at the Airbnb I was staying at, which, if you remember, was a tortoise and bird refuge. I can send you the Airbnb link if that sounds like something you'd enjoy. Anyway, I got on really well with him. We went and sat on the roof of the building and we just talked just about really big spiritual things, like, why are we here? What is God? What is religion? Like, really deep stuff. And I really enjoyed exploring this with a conversation. There's no pressure. It's just like two friends just having a interesting conversation. And then the next morning, Joe's mum picked me up at 2:30 because the race starts at 5. You have an hour in the dark and then it lightens up. And so Joe and I went to the start. We both wore grass skirts. Mine made it to mile 23. And then even then, I stuffed it in my pack rather than throwing it away. And now we've split it in half and it's become 2 little grass skirts for my girls. So that's a good example of when we say about reusing things, to do something like that, like finding a way to give it another life. Or, for example, let's say you do travel and you have to buy a plastic water bottle, which I'm not sure really many places you do, but let's say you do. Put it back in your suitcase on the way back, and I use it to water my plants. I actually didn't have one. Steve had one that I use to water my plants because the mouth hole is very small, so it can kind of nicely slot into the plant right where it needs to go. And that's instead of buying another watering can, So it's another climate thing to do is finding a way, like when you get the tortilla wraps that you make like enchiladas or wraps with, using that as a Ziploc bag. It's essentially the same thing, right? So finding ways to reuse things rather than buying them. Why did I get on that topic? So grass skirt. So the race itself, it was just, I can't even describe how beautiful it was. It was just spectacular. Even when we were when we hadn't even got to the beach yet, when we were running down, we had, obviously a little bit of time in the dark, but the road was nice and smooth. It was nice and quiet. The police were, just in all the right places. And once the sun came up, it was just gorgeous to be out running in the sunrise. I felt like I did a really good job being Joe's guide and taking care of him in the way that he needed, in terms of just making sure he was fueled with water, got his water, making sure I was taking care of myself as well so I could be the best guide I could be, and just, being the most present I could be. So then, once the sun came up, we had a view coming towards the ocean as we went down towards the waterfront, and then we ran along this scenic bypass for quite a long time, and it was just, people go there on a drive for a few hours. So it was just beautiful. And yes, while you are running on the side of a road, and it's quite narrow for Joe and I to be running next to each other, if it was just me, it wouldn't have been a problem at all. So yeah, it was really cool. And then beyond there, we came in, we had a few different turns and spots where we went, and yeah, it was just like really nice to have a marathon where I was looking up and seeing beautiful things. Like, every marathon I've done has been a major marathon, and so there's a lot going on, and so it was just really pretty and enjoyable for that reason, just different, you know? So I really enjoyed that part, and yeah. And then we started to come into Lahaina. Oh, just realised, 30-minute group. If you haven't walked already, let's walk. Apologise if you had already walked. I'll just give you another minute. 32 minutes, we'll start again. We'll do our strides. If you're in the 50-minute group, you can just keep on going. So then we come into Lahaina, and this is like this main street, front street. You know, it's really cool. They shut the street off. There's lots to see. I mentioned last week about the banyan tree. I got to run by the banyan tree, and just got to go through the main shops and lots of people cheering. It was really cool. And then the final few miles were along the path, actually, that I had taken you on the Together Run. We were on the road instead of the path, and that was just about getting into the finish. And it was the longest time on my feet run I'd ever done by quite a way, but I felt good, and I felt so proud of Joe. As I mentioned, he's really important to me, become a good friend and someone who really awoke me to a different side of running, because he was the first person I ran as a guide for, and yeah, it was just really cool to have that experience with him, and just such a gift. So we finished, we celebrated, and his mum made me these really cool things, like a lei made of dollar bills, which was really cool. And he made me a lei that said #1 guide, or it was kind of a medal saying #1 guide. And his sister made this medal that looked like a beach with I don't even know, like some materials in there. Like, it was really artistic, and that was really nice. And then Joe, myself, and Angelique, Joe's girlfriend, went over to near where I was staying, and we jumped in the water. Oh, I forgot, sorry, we're well over. Right, stride in 3, 2, and 1. Getting carried away. And come to a jog or a walk. We'll do one more, and then we'll do 2 more at the 50-minute mark. Just gonna give you a minute while I Okay, are we ready? Do one more in 3, 2, and 1. And come to a jog or walk. If you are in the 30-minute group, go ahead and take a picture, send it or share it on social, send it to me. Make sure you share these Together Runs with your friends. Really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time. Or on Wednesday for the next running reunion episode, which involves a very, very interesting and fun story about 10 Downing Street in England. So come listen to Guy Winch on Wednesday. Okay. Right, so yeah, we jumped in the water. It felt so good to cool off. And then I did something I never thought I would do, but I just felt called to do it, which was that I met this man, and I can't remember if I mentioned him in the last one, but I met this man at the coffee shop because he was sitting so blissful, just looked content. And he was sitting there for like 5 minutes, and I just thought, wow, that's kind of how I want to be. And so I spoke to him, and we talked for an hour and a half, and he invited me to what he called an Om chanting circle. And it was going to be tight with the marathon, and as it was, it actually ended up being less than an hour after we finished. And so I went, dipped in the water. Actually was thinking about not going, but then Josiah, the guy who worked at this Airbnb, was like, you should go. So I went, and there were 6 of us, including a 16-year-old girl, and we sat, meditated for 45 minutes while going Om. And we talked a lot before and a lot afterwards, and I felt so calm and peaceful and serene afterwards. It was definitely something out of my comfort zone, but another good example of go do it. Like, that stuff is so powerful. So I'm really glad I went. And Tim happened to be the owner of a surf shop, one of those strange coincidences. So he said the next morning, come down at 8 and I'll take you out on a lesson. And so I went and ate like a big dinner after that. I had something that Joe's mum brought, like a vegetarian chorizo and egg wrap. But I went and had a big dinner, and again hung out with Josiah, and then I went to bed, tired, definitely. Oh, and God, there's so much to share. And after that, in the evening, I went snorkeling again and saw more sea turtles. So I saw so many sea turtles while I was there, and they were huge, like at least 4 feet big, at least 4 feet, and who knows how much weight, but they were huge. And just, it was so incredible to just not be on a tour and be like dropped somewhere where they're likely to be, but just exploring around myself and like essentially bumping into them and just watching them do their thing. It was really cool. So then the next morning, my final day, I went to the surf shop at 8:30. Actually, it was late because I forgot we said 8. And then we went out there for 3 hours, and he took me. It was really cool having him being this really chill person who also was like doing this for fun. He said from the beginning, he's like, I'm not going to charge you, like I'm doing this for fun. And then he also rode waves himself, so I got to watch someone who's been a surf instructor for 30 years, who taught Larry Page and what's his name, Sergi, the 2 Google guys. He's Jimmy Buffett's personal instructor. He's been at all events all over the world. He told me all kinds of stories. But anyway, but then watching him get surf was really cool as well. And we sat out there for 3 hours. I got sunburned pretty bad on the back of my legs. I had put sunscreen on, but obviously you're sitting there like essentially cooking out on the water. So when you're out there that long, sunscreen in the water isn't going to last that long. And, I really improved. I have surfed maybe 5 to 10 times in my life. And he took me out to like the big waves where not the pros, but the people that do it often are doing, and he was doing. And I was getting the double waves where you get the one before it crests, it drops you, and then you catch it again. And I was so proud of the way that I improved during that time, and I learned a lot. And we just had an amazing conversation. And then, I mean, I feel like I'm just rambling at this point, but I also kind of love myself when someone's in a rhythm like this, talking about things. So let's just go ahead and do a body scan, and then just to bring it back to you and your body, and then I'll just finish off with that final half of the day and any other updates. Okay, so I'm gonna have you do it at your own pace, your own time. Just go ahead and scan your way down from the top of your head to your toes. Few more seconds. Okay. How's your body feeling now? How are you mentally now? Just give you a minute to think about that. Okay. All right, so just going to finish this off. We're on lunchtime of the last day. So in his true chilled nature, he said he had one thing he wanted to do that day, and if he did that one thing, he would be happy. Now, as someone who tries to do 27 things a day and maybe gets 19 of them done and feels pissed off at myself, that was pretty radical to hear. And the one thing he wanted to do was extend his lease, mail it off for 5 more years. So pretty small thing, right? But that was another good lesson. So while he was doing that, filling out the paperwork and mailing that off, I talked to someone who worked in his shop, who ended up being another amazing person who I met all these people, and I've got their numbers and hope to stay in touch with them. This guy called Randy, he's from Hawaii. He talked about working the luau's for 20 years until he had a stroke 2 years ago. Had to retrain how to walk, talk, everything on the left side of his body. And he talked about how excited he was to get back to the luau. We just had a great chat. We ended up talking about athletic greens, and he ended up saying he was going to order some when we got done. He looked it up and he was like, that's exactly what I've been looking for, which was really funny. And then went out to lunch with Tim, and we sat there for 5 hours. And he'd have like a friend would show up, just happened to pass by. They'd come and sit with us. And one guy was like a herbalist who like was very fitting on a show like Naked and Afraid. And another guy was an architect, and he had some amazing stories. And there was one other person. I can't think right now. But yeah, so we just sat there, no plans, just chill. And it was pretty amazing to just take a whole day. Like, I left the Airbnb at 8:30, and I didn't get back till 5:30. And it was just so unlike me. And I felt emotional talking about how good it felt to do that as someone who's so like achievement driven and trying to do everything and just recovering from perfectionism and trying to control things. Like, it was just that whole trip Like, it wasn't about even the people, even though they were like the mentors I needed, like Randy and Josiah and Tim and even Joe, who I already knew. But it just was about something there. And I shared to you about Gentle Thunder, who I met on the top of Haleakala. Like, she kicked this off. But it just, it was just, that's why I'm having a hard time now, I think, because it was just such a powerful experience. And I can feel my old patterns and habits coming back in. But I feel like I'm trying to cling to it. Like, even going out the door just now, before this run, I picked up these shoes and I noticed they still had sand on them. Like, and I thought, oh, there you go, another representation of, like, the relaxed Maui Tina gonna be gone after this run, sprinkled throughout this run. And I know that's not how it works, and I do have the opportunity to do this, and I have been doing things to keep hold of that, including finding multiple times a day to journal, taking time to rest and read, doing chores with the girls around so that I get time for me. So I'm not trying to do work or chores while they're sleeping. But yeah, just feel like I'm in a bit of a weird place, and like wanting to find a way to spend more time out there. Like, maybe next summer we could do a month out there, the family, the four of us. I don't know. Something, I felt very powerfully connected to Maui in a way I haven't felt before. So thank you for listening to my rambles. I know many of you will be sending me love and understanding, because you can hear I am finding it hard. But I also, by the time this comes out, I may have processed through a bit more. And so hopefully I'll be, able to just reflect back on it with gratitude. And I am, but I'll mainly be feeling that rather than right now. I'd say it's gratitude and sadness hand in hand. And I really am more and more thinking about this concept of bittersweet, that happiness and sadness are together. Even in those happiest moments, we're aware they're fleeting, and we're aware that something, you can't hold that moment forever. So it's just something that's really been the forefront of my mind lately. And there's a book by Susan Cain, who wrote Quiet, about this bittersweet concept. So I'm looking forward to reading that. And if you feel like you might need it, then maybe it'll be helpful for you too. Okay, so we have 2 minutes left. Why don't we go ahead and do our strides at 49 minutes, and then we'll have one in the run and one afterwards. Does that work?
There's some big puddles over here.
So I know I've really rambled a lot, but you also are helping me to process and to work through my feelings. So thank you for that, because it doesn't go unnoticed. And I really appreciate you and your support. Okay, ready? And 3, 2, and 1. Okay, come to a jog. When we hit 50, well, actually, we'll probably get both strides in before 50, now I think about it. Because if you can run 50 minutes, you are trained enough to handle running between strides. Okay, ready? 3, 2, and 1. And come to a jog, and then to a walk, and we'll just talk for a second. If you can, go ahead and get your camera out, take a picture of you. If not, take a screenshot. Even if you're still running, can you do the screenshot or do it for me afterwards after you finish your run? Because I really would love to see who I'm running with. When you send me photos of what I'm seeing out on your run, it can be a picture of what you're seeing. It can be a picture of you running, so I can imagine you running with me. It can be a picture of the screenshot of you listening, what you're listening to. But anyway, I really would love to see that. Thank you so much for listening. Really appreciate you. If you enjoyed these, make sure you go to runningforreal.com and sign up for the newsletter. You will definitely enjoy that too. Thank you, friends. I will see you on Wednesday for that running reunion that I talked about. If you, it's a really interesting story. So stay tuned. I'll see you then. Hi friends, just a quick message to say a big thank you to the Running for Real team. While I may be the face of Running for Real and the voice behind the podcast, there are a group of people who are working tirelessly to provide everything that runners could need within our community, to make our community stronger, better, and evolve and grow and learn from one another. We are working really hard to make Running for Real the place we believe it can be within our community. I just want to take a moment to thank everyone on our team. That is Victoria, Stacy, Sandy, Sally, Maria, Kelsey, Kat, Jeremy, and Erica. I appreciate each and every one of you and the hard work that you put in. Now let's get back to the show.